Hey, I was thinking about our conversation the other day about adeniums, and I wanted to share something that's really helped me keep mine thriving: repotting. You know how these desert roses are super beautiful with their thick trunks and bright flowers? Well, there's a point where they outgrow their pots, and if we don't pay attention, they can really suffer. I've learned over time that repotting adenium at the right moment makes a huge difference, and I figured you might find this useful too. Why repotting adenium is so important. So, the thing with repotting is that it's not just about moving the plant to a bigger pot. It's like giving it a reset. Over time, the soil gets compacted, and the roots can get all tangled up or even root-bound, which means they start circling the pot. That's bad news because it can stunt the plant's growth. Plus, adeniums need really well-draining soil since they come from such dry regions. When the soil gets old and compacted, it holds too much moisture, and we both know how easy it is to accidentally overwater these guys. Repotting gives the plant a fresh start with new, airy soil, and it helps the roots spread out properly. When's the right time to repot? Timing is everything with adeniums. You really want to do it in the spring or early summer when the plant is in its active growing phase. They're much more resilient then and can handle the stress of being moved around. Definitely don't repot in fall or winter because that's when the plant goes dormant and it'll struggle to recover from the shock. I usually repot mine every couple of years, but if your adenium is young, you might need to do it more often. You can tell it's time when you see roots poking out of the drainage holes or if the soil dries out too fast after watering. Another sign is if the plant's growth seems stunted or it's not blooming as much as it used to. When you notice these signs, it's time for a new pot. Choosing the right pot and soil. Here's where a lot of people get tripped up: picking the right pot. Don't go to big. You actually want a pot that's just a little bigger than the current one. If the pot is too large, the soil will hold onto too much water, and that can lead to root rot. Also, always make sure the pot has drainage holes. Adeniums hate sitting in soggy soil. For soil, you need something that drains really well. I like to use a mix for cacti or succulents, but if you want to make your own, it's pretty simple. Just mix equal parts perlite or pumice for drainage, coarse sand, and some organic material like compost or coconut coir. That way, the soil stays light and airy, but it holds just enough moisture for the plant to absorb. How to repot your adenium. Okay, so when it comes time to actually repot, it's a pretty straightforward process, but there are a few key steps to keep in mind. First, fill the bottom of the new pot with some of your soil mix. Then, gently remove the adenium from its old pot. I like to give the sides a little tap to loosen it up, but be careful with the roots. You don't want to damage them. If you notice any long or tangled roots, feel free to trim them a bit. And if there are any dead or rotting roots, definitely get rid of those. Once it's ready, place the plant in the new pot and fill in around it with the soil mix. One thing I always make sure of is that the caudex, that swollen part of the trunk, sits just above the soil. It helps prevent rot. After that, just water the plant lightly and let it settle in. Post-repotting care. After repotting, give your adenium a few days in a shaded spot so it can recover from the move. It's always a bit of a shock for the plant, so easing it back into full sun helps. And remember, don't overwater. Let the soil dry out between waterings, especially in the first week or so. I usually wait about a month before feeding it with any fertilizer, and even then, I go light on it. Too much can actually hurt the plant. Common pitfalls to avoid. If I had to point out a couple of things that can go wrong, the first would be repotting during dormancy. It's tempting to do it in the winter when we're not watering as much, but that's the worst time. The other big mistake is using the wrong soil. If it holds too much moisture, the roots can rot. Adeniums are really sensitive to that. Also, I've made the mistake of overwatering right after repotting before. I was trying to help the plant settle, but too much water right after a move is a bad idea. Less is more when it comes to watering adeniums. Honestly, repotting might seem intimidating at first, but it's totally worth it. It's like giving your adenium a fresh start, and you'll notice how much better it grows and blooms afterward. The key is just doing it at the right time, using the right soil, and being careful with the watering. Once you've done it a couple of times, it feels pretty easy. Anyway, I hope this helps. If you're ever unsure whether it's time to repot, just check the roots and soil. It's better to catch it early before the plant starts to struggle. Happy gardening, and let me know how it goes with your adenium.